Okay, so what's interesting to me, and I want you to give me a little bit of a history of progrock.com and the essentials. The label part of things specifically is what we want to talk about today. But what's interesting is in relation to the website, this is one of these labels that I love to see because it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like more of an emphasis on the community and more of an emphasis on the shared passion. So kind of tell me what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the shared passion of prog, or is it the label? So tell me how that all came together.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the passion. You got that right. We had kind of a very generic, piss poor chat room for the shows. So we do, we have a 24-hour streaming system, and we have about 12 DJs that all kind of came together from the passion, right?
Yeah.
And we moved to Discord, and now it just exploded. The community, and people are on there all the time, even when there's not a chat, even when there's not a show going. We're talking about TV shows and in one channel, and bands we just heard of. A band, we have a special channel for bands if they want to promote to our 12 DJs. So it's certainly a passion, and it's been a passion of mine since about 2001, when I realized I couldn't trust the radio to tell me about what the best music was, right?
Right. Good point.
So I started a podcast in 2002 before there was podcast, and then I became a show on a different radio station than the progrock.com. They had some financial issues. I bought it away from them, and I grew it because the domain name is so great, So
yeah, no kidding. So tell me then, when did the label side of things come into existence?
Well, this, maybe you'll edit this. This is maybe a longer story than you want, but not too long.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So it's basically, you can see behind me, this is the venue in my house. Maybe you can kind of see the drum kit back there.
Yeah, okay.
So I started doing house concerts in 2012 when we bought the house, and it went really well. And then a guy named Fido asked to come back. Fido, people know as a 4-time Emmy Award-winning soap opera guy from General Hospital. Okay. But I know him as a musician. I've seen him play in 5 different countries. Okay,
wow.
Wales, France, UK, Canada, all over. And he's like, I would really love to record one because the sound of the room is great. And can we record that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I invested about $3,000 in a recording system, and we did it. It came out amazing. We were almost out of. We did 700 units. We almost sold out of them.
Wow.
And so and Bandcamp as well, and so it went really well. And then I had been hounding another band called Discipline. I said, you know what? One of my favorite albums is your 1997 release, Unfolded Like Staircase, but it sounds awful, absolutely awful. Can we please redo it? And it took me 4 years to get them to come to the border. It's actually, I've got a couple of props here. This is it right here.
Okay, beautiful.
Unfold Like Staircase. And I got Terry Brown from Rush. You may know, he did the first 11 Rush albums.
Okay.
And he was a big fan of the album, which one of the band members knew. So we contracted him, and we did it. I did a special 1 album deal with them for the remaster.
Okay.
And that's kind of what happened. And that went so well that now bands are coming at me. Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. And what year was that?
That was it's the 25th anniversary. That was basically 2022, but it came out just on the end of 2021. We made it 25th anniversary. We fudged the date.
Okay. So what's interesting is that it's hard for record labels to promote their own releases because they come off as biased, which they are, which is the good thing. Yeah. And it's we always feel like we're self-promoting.
Right.
But what I love about your type of label and your platform is, and it's rare, but I think it's the best, is that you can just embed these releases into this pre-existing community. Is that true? Is that how the sales and marketing work for you?
Well, you know what? It does and it doesn't. I try to divorce myself from that. I don't make people play the albums. I don't want to become like what the record industry is right now, where the record companies own the radio stations.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good point. Good point.
So, I mean, So we do market it because we love it. I would market it the same, let's just say, as if I didn't own a stake in it. Okay, so we'll keep it at that.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, that's good for you for doing that. Now, does some of the community must dictate though, or not dictate, but at least influence your decision making into what you sign or what you remaster? Is that, are there people saying, hey, you should remaster this, or you should reach out to this band? Do you let them vote on demos that you get?
No, I don't. It's very much kind of me. And maybe a band that is interested in me. I have kind of this. We all kind of maybe have a system of how we rate bands and songs and stuff. And I have a 5-star system.
Okay.
And I say, and the 5th star for me is: would I get on a plane to go fly across the Atlantic to see this band play?
Wow.
And if they would, then I would accept them as somebody. And that's what we call it, progrock.com's essentials, because I feel like this is essential for anybody who likes progressive rock and certain subgenres progressive rock, which is psychedelic, maybe a little bit stuff that would be number one in 1973. Maybe it wouldn't be that edgy, jazzy. That's not my subgenre per se. We have plenty of DJs that play that, but for me, it's like this is crossover progressive rock.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. So are you doing, you said the first project you did was an album that was already released, but you wanted to make it better and you wanted to give it to a broader audience. Yeah. What is the split like now? What is the pie like when it comes to records that you think need to be given a better day in the sun, maybe a proper vinyl release, versus brand new young bands who have never recorded before?
Yeah, I don't do that. This is a one and done for me, this album. There's no other album that I thought was a 5-star album with a 2-star recording.
Okay.
It is really what it is. And they totally agree. And when Terry Brown heard it, he was like, well, this is going to sound great because the bar is very low here, Right. And luckily we had the ADATs and we didn't have to heat them up or anything. We were able to transform them to digital. Yeah.
How much of that was re-recorded? Did you have to re-record anything? Oh, Zero. That's great.
And but it was, if you happen to see the Paul McCartney, I think it was McCartney 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1, something like that.
With Rick Rubin? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So they talked about how the recording was actually an actual, they're around the desk, all playing with the faders, right?
Yes.
So it was actually a performance. And they had to do the same thing in '97, right? Maybe because they didn't have a lot of money. I don't think anybody else was. I don't think the Beatles were doing that in '97 or McCartney or whoever. But but that's what happened. And a lot of things the violins they never got them into the mix. And it was, so this is amazing. I'm actually kind of getting chills thinking about it right now. But it's just an amazing recording. And I props to the people that did it originally. It's great.
Well, I guess in progressive rock, there's so many things going on. And to be able to have all those fingers on faders and bringing the violins up at minute 8:05 and then bringing them back down.
It's funny you said 8:05, right? Because you would never see that with any other genre.
That's right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. 8:05, right in the middle of the song.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually 4 songs, four sides,
Oh, yeah. Classic. It's the opposite of punk.
Yeah. And I love punk too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. We have some communities and genres that I've come across in this show over the years. A lot of the time, it's new contemporary styles of music, platforms that are promoting something that's never existed before. That's, what you're doing, which is a label and a community around a genre. I've seen that before, but not always do I see it in the case of prog, where you're maybe keeping something alive, although maybe I'm offending you in saying that because I know that there's new prog all the time. But is preservation of this genre, does that play a role in your objective at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing, right? I'm actually put away money for when I'm gone to for the genre,
Wow.
So we really, think the most of this. And is it really is it on it's kind of on the incline, right? It's well, it's tough to really measure. It's tough to measure.
It's tough to measure, yeah.
So in Europe, it's very, the band that I signed right now, they're booking for, maybe it's too much information, but they're booking for €6,000 per show, which
Wow.
is like unheard of.
Sure.
Chester Thompson certainly helps with that, but
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other band that's booking that high, except unless it like maybe Tame Impala or the Decemberists or
Right.
Deer Hunter, right? Those are the
Right.
few I could think of.
I see. Yeah, well, no, that's really interesting. So you think it's on the incline. And I mean, I would agree because of the globalization, because of the internet, because you now, if you have diehard prog fans in Japan,
Right.
they maybe could not find their people, right? They couldn't
Right.
find their other people who agreed with it. And so now, because of your channel, because of your station and the website and the Discord, and it's the same thing for other small genres too, where they can now find our people and start to elevate it a little bit. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, that happened in 94, 90 to 97. That's really when it started coalescing.
Okay.
And I've been a web developer since 97. And I since retired, but that's how I found out about progressive rock. Was I Googled a band called Toy Matinee, and I didn't know they were progressive rock. They're really pop, but they're huge Genesis fans. So and then I found all these other bands, and that's how I in 2001 it just all exploded for me. I was like, my God, my favorite bands I never heard of yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's incredible. I want to ask you, so we know the genre is not dying off. I mean, you must be a little bit, we're not yet at the point where all of the people from the 70s who were at the show at the 70s and into the 80s, they're no longer with us. When we get to that point, I'm one of them. It would be curious to see if the genre lives on. What gives you confidence that the genre will live on?
I will tell you the problem. It is a real problem. It's just like like baseball is kind of going the same thing that the demographic is trending older, right?
Right.
Here, the deal is, I do see the artists are younger, and the people that can afford to go aren't. You can't actually. It seems like only older Americans here in America can afford to go to some of these shows because they're very expensive to get over. The visa process is really crazy. And the metal side is doing so well. Progressive metal is doing so well with younger audiences. Prog Power in Atlanta I go to, thing is sold out. It's to the rafters of people, and they're all young. I'm the oldest guy there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. Is there territories in the world that are where's the top? What's the top 3 countries for prog?
Per capita would be Germany, the Netherlands, and then it vacillates between the upper Europe there, Sweden and Norway. I'm not really quite sure per capita, but UK is great too. But that is an older demographic. But you're going to definitely see the Germany is per capita. Our station is crazy. It's like number 1, just flat out. And per capita, it doesn't even compete.
And I mean, wasn't that true for Genesis too back in the day? And even Phil, the Germany and Italy and.
It was mostly Italy early, and then Germany got on board. But Genesis was going to call it quits. I have the laserdisc of their biography, and they were about to call. I think Rutherford said we're about to call it quits, and then the guy came in and says you're selling England is number 1 in Italy, and they're like, okay, we got something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So would America then? Where would America rank on that? Per capita on that top 10 list?
Per capita, it's probably 7 or 8. It doesn't make the top 5.
And so that's interesting, big. Right? Because I mean, you and I are from North America, but we, from a culture standpoint, that ocean has a lot. No matter with globalization, it separates a lot. And there's this kind of ethnocentric arrogance in North Americans that if something is not popular in America, then it therefore is not popular. Do you find that to be the case with trying to promote this here in America?
Well, it's just tough. Here's the thing. I don't promote it to people that aren't really interested in it. You know, it's
You're not an evangelist?
It's I am, but to the right people, right? You know,
Okay.
it's not pop music. It's by definition for a subset of people, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
do you consider music an art form? If so, if you haven't heard your favorite artist yet, you gotta check this band out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have to make sure I don't want to come across like I'm some like a MLM kind of hun, right? I don't want
Right.
to. I'm not like this is. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid
Yeah. Yeah.
type of thing. So I always rein it in.
Well, you know what? I think everyone is like that in these sub genres. Like when you get into, you know, whether it's ska or, you know, some sort of type of hip hop or something that everyone's drink. It's okay. It's okay to drink the Kool-Aid. It's okay to make other people drink the Kool-Aid.
Right.
Okay, so if a new band is coming on the scene, young people starting a band in this genre, do they intentionally adopt the prog rock definition, or you know, or would they? How did they get that membership card, as opposed to just being indie rock or alternative back in the 90s?
Right.
What makes them maybe want to adopt that definition? Is that something they do, or are they given that definition?
Yeah, it's both. It's absolutely both. So there's this one band I love. It was a one and done band called Flicker, and from Aylesbury. And I liked the album so much. I interviewed them as we're doing today, and I said, guys, this is amazing. I love your songs. And I told them what my three favorites were, and they're like, "Oh, you know," because everybody likes these other songs, these very poppy songs. And I told them they're very progressive rock. They remind me of a band called Porcupine Tree, and they're like, "We don't know who that is, and screw you," you know, because we sound like us, you know.
Right?
And they became prog because I was playing them all the time.
That's funny.
And I had 20 units of and I gave them all away immediately because everybody loved it. And then there's in the other side, I have this band that I'd like to sign called Oddleaf, and they are a French band. They've got 2 songs done, a third that I know of that nobody else knows of, and they're great. And they definitely, specifically, when they're in their videos, one guy's wearing King Crimson, one guy's wearing Pink Floyd, one guy. I mean, it's all Wobbler. All these bands, and they love progressive rock, and it was obvious because it sounds a lot like Genesis from the 70s.
Well, I have this story. There's this indie rock band that's recently disbanded called Grizzly Bear. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're kind of folksy, and they were never considered prog. Nobody really talked about prog. Yeah. And they've done them about four records or so. They were around for maybe 10 years, 15 years. And I was a big fan of them just because it was indie rock and it sounded folksy and very, very much like Selling England and Pryor. Yep. And I always wondered if they were secretly Genesis fans, or I was surprised that Genesis fans weren't fans of them.
Right.
And I was just speaking with a buddy of mine who's a big fan of Genesis as well. Okay. And he was saying how he met them when they were first getting started, he was running the door at a venue. Okay. And after the sound check, one of the drummer came and sat next to him, and he said, "Are you guys fans of Genesis?" And yes, by any chance? And he's like, "Oh yeah, big time." And it was just interesting because this band really should be considered prog rock, but somehow they kind of snuck into that indie rock thing. I don't know. I wonder too if like being given this moniker, does it prevent you? It's kind of like when a rock band with a bunch of Christian guys somehow get labeled Christian rock. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wonder if sometimes bands don't want to be labeled prog rock so that they're not put over into that category.
You definitely do not want to be, I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Unitopia prefers world music. Porcupine Tree, who plays like 2 shows at big venues here in Chicago, they fought it for a long time, and then they finally said, well, you know, we're already booking the Chicago theater now. It's fine. Call us whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then of course he was remixing and remastering a bunch of Jethro Tull albums and Beatles albums and ELO and you know all these. Yeah. So I mean it was obvious that but it's a mixed bag. Now I think back when Grizzly started, I think right around 2004 or so. They didn't want that.
Yeah.
Now it's like instant 1,000 fans. You can have if you have a good album, you'll have an instant 1,000 fans.
That's really interesting.
And then you have to go from there.
Well, and we've talked on this show about the power of niching and the power of, as a record labels, some record labels, they form and they want to be the next Universal Music, and they basically do not have a genre that they assign, or they don't have something that makes them special and or makes them unique. And I caution against that. And so what you said is really interesting, is that when you say, hey, we are lo-fi jazz, or we are progressive rock, then all of it, that idea of that concept of instantly having 1,000 champions, that's pretty appealing.
Yeah, and I don't know if you could, I could be overstating it, but I know.
I think you're right.
I know from, I went to a concert in Wales, and these guys have this great album, and I said, well, this is one of the best things. I flew over here just to see you guys, so they're one of my 5-star bands, and I'm like, this is really special. I hope you continue on. Yeah. And everybody loved them. I wasn't the only one that thought this band is great, and they got a bunch of champions I know from our Discord server.
Yeah, well, it is really powerful, and I think that's a really cool thing to aim for.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to give you the impossible task. Well, maybe not impossible for you. You're probably the only one who could really officially do it, but of defining prog rock for our audience, because a lot of our audience might be, they might be a little bit curious.
So it's an interesting question. I think I can answer it because I thought about it a lot, because I hate those things. They're not prog rock type of thing. We have a bunch of baby boomers and younger that they're very particular about that. And so mine is the most liberal definition of progressive rock. And that is, it's not 4/4. It doesn't go verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. And if it's not that, you're in with a chance. And then we could maybe make a decision on a no or a yes from there. But my opinion is then you're doing something outside pop music, and that's progressive. I mean, I'll give you an example of what's the Green Day's Jesus Suburbia, American Idiot.
Okay, yeah,
that's a progressive rock album in my book.
Wow,
it's got a 9-minute track in there called Jesus Suburbia. It's got some interesting chord changes, and it's definitely not verse chorus. Prog fans would like that album.
I heard somebody once say, and I don't know if there's any truth to this, and sometimes I listen for it when I hear prog, but that a prog song will never repeat something. Is that or have something repetitive? Do you think that's true?
That's way too strenuous.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have Suppers Ready, right? It's a 23-minute song, and it's not gonna repeat ever. I mean, that's progressive rock, no matter how you slice it. And I know it comes back to "Hey Baby, Your Eyes So Blue." I mean, that's way out there.
Yeah. I remember it was so weird because I was selling a laptop online, and this young couple came. I mean, they'd got to have been like 19 years old. And they saw I had an instrument in the living room when they came to pick up the laptop. And they asked me if I was a musician, what type of music I played. And they said they were musicians too. And I said, what kind of music does your band play? And they said prog. I was like, whoa, that's surprising from, coming from like a 19-year-old. That's pretty cool.
I probably know them. Whoever it is, they probably know.
Yeah, that's right. I'm wondering, though, with kind of like the advancement of tech, we've talked a little bit about this globalization and bringing the online communities together. But what about like home recording and like the accessibility of synthesizers, modular synthesizers, and these analog synthesizers that Tony Banks had and that Keith had that were inaccessible to most of us because they're $10,000 and $20,000, but now are being made by companies like Behringer and stuff. Has that influenced people to get into prog?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if that is the case. I guess that would be more of a band question, because I would think that these bands just love it and they're able to do more because of it. They would be doing it anyway, but they're able to do it better now. Right. Because I can't imagine any of these artists would be like, oh, we can't really do that. Let's go do ska, or it's just not going to happen with these guys. They're so passionate.
So progressive means to progress.
Right.
And which is one of the big debates about that turning point for Genesis is why weren't they allowed to progress? But are there rules? We talked about the definition, but like, do you encourage your bands to be innovative? Do you want prog to be innovative, to evolve? Do you want, you know what I mean? Like, is that something that the prog community is looking for?
Well, first of all, I don't get involved with the music making process of my bands. I let them do what they want to do. If they ask me for advice, I would say don't. I would be adjacent to that question. I would say, don't be afraid to do something different. Okay, are you an artist is somebody that makes something for them. Right? So you have to do that. If you're an entertainer, you're making it for the audience. If you're an artist, you're making it for you. So,
that's good. That's a pull quote there.
Yeah. So that's really what I've heard. I wish I could give credit for that one, but I definitely felt like that is the case.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. So you don't mind. So you don't get involved with your artist then, but I mean, you're still a curator. So you do have some sort of this 5-star system in your mind that might disqualify someone or some sound.
Yeah, well, I made once they've made something that I think is 5-star quality, I would book them. I don't say like, okay, well now you can't do you can't have a stand-up bass and do a jazzy album, right?
Yeah.
So you're in. But the thing is, it might affect how much I play it personally, and I might hand it off to other DJs, and I might market it to different magazines, and I just pivot on that. If I was in the business of telling bands how to make music, that would be a short-lived business in my book.
Oh, good for you. That's good for you. I picture a bit of snobbery in the prog community in the same way that I picture it in the jazz community. Sure. And it certainly is there, and probably in the classical community, although I haven't been invited to that community. But is there snobbery? Is that something that I think any fans like to be exclusive in a way, as a way to define who you are and what you love. But, do you sense snobbery? Do you embrace it? Do you try to erase it?
I definitely am of the, let me go, let's be controversial here. I am definitely against it. And it's a community. And, just because this has jazzy chord changes in here doesn't make it better, and and we deal with that a lot because I like I said, I like stuff that people would like outside the genre. If you liked, I like Phil Collins' Genesis, right?
Yeah.
I like Phil Collins, right?
Yeah.
That would get me, like, they would close the circle and they wouldn't let me. They would, all of a sudden I wouldn't be part of the conversation anymore if I said that some places,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
I think it's been coming out in our conversation, but I want to ask you about you and why you do this. I've surprisingly met a few people over the years who are doing what you're doing or want to do. More importantly, they want to do something meaningful later in their life like you're doing. I can honestly say I've met people who want to start a record label from the age of 13 all the way to 70 and beyond. So tell me a little bit about why you're still doing this 20 years later. And you've said you've put money away for after you've gone. I don't think I've met any record label owner who has said that. Yeah. That is mind-blowing. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So what motivates you?
Well, I haven't been a label that long, right? That's only 4 or 5 years. Sure. And it was very a loosey-goosey thing. It was a house concert and this remaster. So it really wasn't anything going on. Just recently it's really come to hit. But my let me circle back to the question. What was the question here? Let me go back. What were we saying? What
motivates you, and why do you do this, and especially this idea of doing it as a second career later in life?
So it's just the love of the music. I mean, it really just comes down to that. I didn't realize how much I love music. I'm a kind of person that can't do things halfway. So a little bit, this might be too much information, but when I was 3 years old, I knew I wanted to be a professional bowler. Okay. And I focused on that all the time. I became professional bowler in the 20s, and there was no money in there for me, and I wasn't as good as I needed to be.
Right.
And then I was really good at computers in 94. I started making a lot of money in computers, right? And by 97 I was in web development, and that's
a good time.
That helped me for a whole way, right? And then when that subsided, I was really into the Cubs, and I went all over the world to see Cub games, and I went to Japan for the opener, and I went to I even went to all 7 World Series games. So I cannot seem to do anything halfway. And when I became interested in music, I started the podcast. Before we were a podcast in 2002, I've done over 1,000 episodes. I've always featured a new album every week. There's always something worth it to me to share with everybody. Every week there's a new album.
Man.
So there is that. And then I decided that because I have some skills marketing and computer wise, that I could actually help out bands as well. They agreed. And so here I am with a couple of bands on the roster.
Yeah, that's incredible. And do you want to grow that roster? Do you have kind of a limit? Do you have an amount of releases per year you feel like you can handle?
I definitely have a limit, and we want to keep it a boutique. I want to make sure I can do everything for them that I need to do. And right now it's crazy because I have 4 releases in 6 weeks. So
wow,
it's incredible because we have a tour starting in September 1st. So and then everybody in the band wanted to put out an album. So Chester Thompson wanted to put out an album in time. He had it ready to go, so I had to work on art. Just rush, getting the artwork ready and everything there. And you need 6 weeks to make it. And then a guy named Don Schiff, who is, he played with Elvis, this guy, and he lost all of his merch to a fire. He's in California. He had his house burned down, and so I had to put on an anthology. And and then Unitopia also has a side project called UPF, and they all wanted to work with me, and they barely know me. It's kind of crazy. As a matter of fact, Chester signed with me. Where he said he wanted me to do it. He didn't even have a contract. He didn't even care what the contract was. And I'm like, Chester, here I'm actually making the album now. Can you please look at the contract, please?
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Yeah. Well, that's a testament to something for sure.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Just before we close up, and I know you've got a lot going on. This is getting it back into the weeds because that's what we do. It's fun, but the prog fans have been through a lot of physical formats. I love talking about physical formats because I've been through a lot of physical formats. In my I've only been alive for 17 years, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But no, prog fans go from originally vinyl, but then probably some 8-tracks. I've seen some 8-tracks of The Lamb kicking around. But then maybe a short stint in cassettes. Of course, CDs was a big thing and still is a big thing. And now vinyl's coming back with all the colors and variants. And then there's streaming. I'm not sure what role digital or streaming plays with your audience. So give me some insights into what types of formats your fans like to purchase today.
I'm actually glad you asked me that question. I have some notes on that, actually.
Please.
So, when I started, vinyl had already kind of had the resurgence, So always have vinyl, always do 100 black, and then I try and do 400 of a color. Okay. And I know the numbers are vague, but a lot of people do not play them. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
So whether it's 50% or 20%, you want to have a color one. And I know from Fido, who I mentioned earlier, that if you only have black, you're going to be in trouble.
Interesting.
So, and I'm sitting on his merch as well. I do a lot of distribution for bands. I help them out do their American distribution. And so I will tell you that from the 7 bands that I do distribution for, you don't want to do only black. Okay. And it'd be best. It's worth the extra money for the 150 gram or whatever. deep
180, yeah.
180 gram. Thank you.
I agree. I agree.
It's not that much more, and the theme of color isn't that much more. I
No.
listened to one of your shows with with Secretly, and and they said the color is a little bit more, but I don't even notice it. I'll tell you right now, it doesn't cost as much as shipping. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's for sure. And really, color, all it is the setup fee. So if you're only doing 100 copies or 200 copies, you notice the setup fee more. But once you get to 500 and beyond, it's only about $100, $95 setup fee. So
it's just to clean the colors out from the system.
Yeah.
So I definitely get vinyl for prog fans, but the ratio is 5-2, 5 CDs to every 2 vinyl.
Interesting.
For my 20,000 units that I sold. Okay. And
pause. I want to pause for the second. I just want to send a note out to our listeners and our viewers.
Yeah.
The fact that you know these numbers is very good, very important, and everyone should be able to. I should be able to call every label who's listening and say, what's your ratio for CDs to vinyl? So bravo. Continue.
Yeah. Well, I'm a math guy.
That's okay. That's great.
That's why I know that stuff.
Good.
And I will tell you that download codes. I also, on another one of your videos, I don't remember that they were kind of like, it was a Secretly.
Yep.
Secretly said, I don't know about download codes. They're not. The redemption rate is 5%. But I'm here to tell you that offering it helps sales. Okay, I don't have empirical data on that.
Sure.
But you should definitely keep it. I know for me, if I know there's a download code, then I don't feel like I'm behind the people that bought it from Bandcamp or whatever.
Yes.
So let me give you I will give you a story about that. I had a business class when Kinko's went from, who knows Kinko's is, but when Kinko's went from 7 to 7 to 24 hours, they sold more every hour. Even the hours they were open before, because now they knew that everybody knows that I can go to Kinko's. I don't have to look at my watch. It's always open. So if you have that ability to say, okay, well, I get the download code, so I can always get it at any point, even though I may not listen to it until I have it in hand. The knowing is what helps sales.
Genius.
Okay.
That is so genius. I totally agree. So who cares about the redemption rate?
Yes.
You're right. We can't get this data, but to be able to convert people to buy, those download codes may actually be doing that.
Right. And they're great at live concerts, because who doesn't want to listen to the band they just heard at the concert? Yeah. You have a redemption code, they download on their phone, they're streaming it. People don't have CD players in their cars anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's great to have those at the gigs as well. And I would just highly recommend that people put those out. You get hundreds of them from Bandcamp, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so CDs are 5-2. So CDs still play a really big role.
Big role. Yeah. Now, and actually download might be, I don't have enough data from newer bands, but the downloads are maybe 1-to-1 with the vinyl.
Wow. Yeah, I find that too. Too, maybe even a little bit more. That's really interesting. And that's great too, because that helps pay for some of the physical stuff.
Yeah.
It's pure profit, those digital stuff.
Yeah. And
that's really interesting.
And the way to, if you want, I give you another hint about making more money on the downloads.
Yeah.
Always offer a 24-bit one.
Oh, okay.
Upcharge it $2 or $3.
Okay. And
maybe you can offer the 16-bit one for a lower rate, but people will always then what happens, 95% of the people buy the higher bit rate one, because they're like, for $2 I'm going to go ahead and just buy it.
I just want to make sure. Yeah,
I'll get the better one, you know.
Yeah.
And they may not have spent $13, except you gave them a $9 option and a $13 option, so they spent the $13.
Now, are you talking about on your own store versus Bandcamp? Bandcamp allows you to separate.
Oh yeah. Yep. Just like vinyl, CD, 16-bit, 24-bit, done.
I didn't realize that you can charge more. Okay. And which one is FLAC? FLAC can be both, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a matter of the master, right? The way I put up there.
That's really, really cool. And so are you sending 24-bit to vinyl too?
Yeah. Oh, well, we
Yeah.
have our own master. We have three masters.
Oh,
We have
okay.
a 16
Oh,
and
cool.
24 and a vinyl.
Oh, beautiful.
So
Wow. That's
yeah,
amazing.
is it one master and three? I can't remember what three. One mix and three masters, right? I always forget
Right. That's
which one
right.
is which.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's, oh my gosh, that's really interesting. Now that really does resonate, I think, with prog fans. I know that like FLAC is very important when it comes to bootlegs and that kind of stuff. And so, and I think there are probably genres like jazz, where classical world music, where that's really, really important.
Right.
All very, very cool stuff. I know that we had Dave Kersner. I talked to him years ago, or not years ago, but on the other channel, and we talked about a little bit about Atmos too. And I think that, you know, who knows, at the time of recording this, seems to be fizzling out a little bit just because of how expensive it is, and there seems to be no return for the labels or the but I mean, that is something that I would imagine prog fans are kind of interested in a little bit.
I will certainly keep an eye on it. I love the idea, but you know, I have a pretty big house, and I can't really set it up. I don't even have a wall behind me for 5.1, let alone 23 by 1. Whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind it on my AirPods. I can hear it when it's done really, really well. I was listening to Marvin Gaye, and you can hear like congas in the background. I don't mind it. But again, if Apple isn't paying they're not paying you more for it. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I asked you about formats, because I love to get into the weeds, and we got into the weeds on that Secretly episode. And that's that download code perspective from you. Our audience are going to love that, because it's so true. It's irrelevant on Bandcamp because you get the download anyway. But that's what I love about buying vinyl from Bandcamp, as opposed to Amazon or
but the physical media at the store, I actually make sure that I give the code in there. And actually, another thing you guys talk about. Let's see if I can show you this real quick. So I have like you can't. It's reflecting badly. There we go.
Yeah, a QR code on the vinyl.
Code in there. So the salespeople at the store don't have to do the selling for it. I do a video with a little for fans of video with 2 more links to the unboxing and then a sample of the song that come on after. So,
Okay, pause. Hold on.
Yeah.
We've got viewers and we've got listeners. So I want to go through this a little bit closer. So we have a 12-inch vinyl, and you have put a little label that has a QR code. So they're in the record store. They scan the QR code. Where are they taken to first?
They're taking to a little video, like a 15-second video that says "For Fans of."
For fans of. Okay.
Like FFO, I call it.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
And then at the end of that video, it's linked to 2 more videos. One is the unboxing, so they can see the color of the vinyl, and another one is a sample of the song. So it ends with 2 links for 2 more videos. So I do a 3-video suite for every vinyl.
Yes. Wow, bravo. And that unboxing thing is really cool. And I think it's one of the things I love about Bandcamp is that when people show all the different pictures, and I'm like, oh gosh, this comes with a fold-out poster. I need to have this.
Right.
But you don't get that experience in the record store when it's wrapped in cellophane and then stuck in the store's plastic sleeve.
Right. And it's really important to me because there's no white sleeves in my thing. It's always, I have artwork on every sleeve, and I've got some triple vinyls, so it's a lot of artwork.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Yeah. And I think the whole vinyl fans, and I want to go back to what you said about people who just listen. We don't really, there was a recent article that I call BS on, but there was a recent article about that. It said it was a 50%, I think, of fans who buy the vinyl and don't listen to it.
Right. I saw the interview with what's his name? We talked about it before we started.
Oh, that's right. The Record Store Day. Yes, we did talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, let's maybe take out the Taylor Swift fans from that equation and then recalculate that number. But still, I think I said in that interview as well that I am kind of guilty of that sometimes too. Like I have some gorgeous Genesis bootlegs that sound like crap, but they're very important to me. They're meaningful records and they sit in my record collection. I have records from my friends that are gifts. But I just wanted to highlight, regardless of that, who cares? They're supporting the artist. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But what I think is so great is that you're putting so much attention into this package. There's no white sleeves, 3 vinyl, color, because this is an artifact that people want to own forever.
Right. I mean, Porcupine Tree said, Stephen Wilson said that you got to give people a reason to want the physical media, right?
Yeah.
So I can't put anything out. I can't do it halfway. The whole point of me doing this label is let's do it right the first time. Let's not go back.
Yes.
You don't have enough money for vinyl. You can sign with me. I will make sure it comes out the same day as your CDs or your
Wow.
downloads. Because you don't want to make your fans buy it twice, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
That's so true.
And I
Yeah.
don't and I always talk. First of all, I always talk people out of signing a label at all. So you shouldn't have a label. Don't give me any money. There's no need for you to give me any money, really. You
Right.
could do it on your own. But
Yeah.
if that fails, or you really, and there's one band that I'm trying to sign, and he's working as a waiter. You know, he
Yeah.
cannot afford to put out the vinyl at the same time. Then I get a little more aggressive and say, let's, if you want to do it right, let's do it. You know,
Yeah.
let's do something.
Well, the resounding thing I hear from you, and I do hear from a lot of labels, is people who start labels from fandom. And I love that story of you, your favorite record you felt like wasn't given the proper release, and that you as a fan, who cares if the other 1,000 people buy it or not,
Right.
you as a fan want to have a good copy of that in your collection. I love that. I think that's the best place to start a record label from.
It was basically, it's like for me, if it cost me 10 grand for my test vinyl,
Yeah.
fine. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way.
So, and like I said, it's the only album I felt that way about.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
And it took me 4 years to talk him into it. I mean, I was hounding him. I was going to Detroit. I was going to Canada. I was going to Pennsylvania. I was like, let's do this.
Yeah. Amazing. That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, Mark. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you, and congrats on everything you've built the past 20 years and the past 2 years and what you've got coming up. Congrats.
Well, thanks very much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm like ravenously checking out all your videos. So thank you so much for what you're doing too.